One Direction at B105. Stav, Abby, Matt playing that to celebrate tomorrow, I believe around 9 a.m. Harry Styles' brand new single will get played on B105 for the very first time. Do not miss it.
Yeah, today is a special day. They're saying Australians are encouraged and will perform acts of kindness as a national day of mourning for the Bondi terror attack that took place on the 14th of December. And just, I know that you were in Sydney at the time, but when that news broke, it's just shocking to think something like that happens in Australia. It's shocking all over the world, but just heartbreaking for a place that is just a melting pot in Bondi. It's just such a hive of activity of so many people coming together. So just a way to remember the victims.
Now, you saw all the coverage of it, and I think out of the biggest tragedies in our world, you always see the biggest positives, and that is the people that who ran to help and who have been helping since. And one of those people is one of the Bondi lifeguards. You'll know him as Singlets. Trent is what his family calls him. And he joins us this morning. Trent, you were there on the day. Can you tell us how it played out for you?
Yeah, good morning, team. Thanks for having me on. Basically it was a Sunday like any other. I was not rostered on that day, and I was actually having a pub roast not far from Bondi, and literally all of a sudden our WhatsApps on our phone, on my phone, started lighting up from the team and people in Bondi that there were shots being fired. And of course this was, sort of drew my attention straight away, and I was like, I'm fourth generation Bondi, so I'm really sort of, protective of the place, but also the community. And so I thought, this doesn't really look good. So I put the roast down and ran out of the pub and literally made my way to the beach as soon as I could. And, just sort of by that stage, there were police arriving in droves and roadblocks were being set up. And I virtually parked the car in a no stopping zone and ran to the Lifeguard tower. Grabbed a uniform and was just not ready for what was about to unfold next.
Because you guys are the ones that do, run to danger. You run to be able to help people out, but this was something that you kind of had never experienced. It's normally saving people in the ocean, and we saw, I guess, the images of a lot of people hiding behind one of the lifeguard vehicles, and also going out to the ocean. Did you have even time to think about what you were going to do for those people that you could help?
No, not at all. I mean, you rightly said, sort of, we train for a lot of the sort of emergencies in the ocean, and, we respond to car accidents nearby the beach. And, as first responders, we've got all the medical gear. So there's a range of things that we respond to medically, but, that kind of thing was just so far beyond the scope of even human comprehension, let alone like on a professional level. So literally, sort of all of us just ran in there, not knowing what we were about to expect or the danger that was unfolding, and just wanted to try and sort of, help as quickly as we could.
And I imagine you've been working there since. People are returning to the beach. Well, what's the vibe down there? Is the community on edge?
Yeah, there's a fragility in the air still, and there's a sadness in the air still. Bondi's sort of a really big mixing pot of like tourists and locals and a bit of everybody really. And so, when you speak to the locals and that kind of thing, there's still this heaviness in the hearts of people that this has happened. And a lot of the people I speak to down there are still trying to process the event, because it was so big and so far beyond, anything that we've experienced before. There's a lot of people still grappling with it. So, it's a bit of everything down there at the moment. Yeah,
because I imagine when the WhatsApp comes in and it says, shots have been fired, you're not thinking of the scale of what it was. You'd be thinking, one or two shots been fired at some sort of, localized dispute, and then the mass scale that unfolded would have been hard to wrap your head around.
Absolutely. Like, gunshots, I mean, at Bondi, it's not really a thing. Fortunately, we always consider it as quite a safe place to live. And obviously we know now since the Westfield, sort of incident as well, not long ago, that, these things do happen in sort of every corner of the globe. So, again, that was just really hard to comprehend that there were actually gunshots being fired at Bondi Beach,
I mean, we've seen in Parliament it becomes a political, debate. But what do you actually think the community needs to be able to heal?
Yeah, I think, number one, I think the community needs time. I think, that old adage that time heals all wounds is really, really true here. And I can see that, sort of starting to play out a little bit. I do think there's a political element that needs to be addressed there, and that seems to be playing out, sort of in Canberra and, amongst the politicians. But,
they'll get that wrong. They usually do.
Course.
They won't. They'll bicker and get nothing achieved.
Absolutely. We know this. However, I also think that, the community just needs support. And what I'm seeing unanimously down there is a meshing of the community and a lot of people really coming together and just, wrapping each other up and checking in on each other and that kind of thing as well. So, I think that's a really good thing to come out of it. If there's a blessing in adversity, it seems to be that people are really checking in on each other and looking out for each other and trying to heal collectively.
I think highlighting those stories will be the key to it. I remember seeing a story of one woman who lost her child, her 4-year-old, I think she was. She could not find her. And in the commotion, rather than she was looking for her kid, but then there was another little girl, same age, laying on the ground, frightened. So she threw her body over a complete stranger's child, thinking, well, if I don't have my child on me, at least I can save this little girl. Yeah. I think for a mother to have to make that decision under those circumstances, that is what we need to highlight, the goodness in people that is still around rather than the evil that we love to broadcast so often.
Absolutely, and that's a wonderful example, and being there in the triage area and treating these patients, mass casualties, I just saw so much care and sort of disregard for people's own safety and just like the feeling in the air was quite sort of, it was just silence, but people just really focused on trying to get the care to these people that were in a pretty bad way, and so I just saw this incredible outpouring of love and care, and that's the sort of thing that sort of stuck with me. And they're the things that we need to remember about community in times like this, is that there are so many good people out there, whether they're bystanders, first responders, whoever they are just, sort of really invested in caring for people. And I think that's really important.
Later on that night, when you're walking back to the tower, and it's just that, I guess it would have been such an eerie, maybe quiet moment. What did you guys actually do?
Yeah, that's a time we won't ever forget. It was just walking back to the tower. The sun was setting, and it was just this really eerie feeling of what just happened, and we were all very numb. And we went back to the Lifeguard tower to sort of take all of our equipment back, and the boys. There was probably 12 of us there at that stage. Decided that we would go for a swim, and it was almost dark, and that was almost symbolic to wash off a lot of the adrenaline and a lot of the whatever we just been through. But there was sort of 12 lifeguards going for a swim in the dark almost, and that was sort of, like I said, really symbolic, and I'll remember that forever.
Well, Trent, thanks for your time this morning, mate. I mean, thank you for everything that you did on that day as well. We appreciate you calling through to the show.
Thank you, team, and we really appreciate everybody's support. I say that on behalf of everyone in Bondi. The support has been incredible. So thank you, everybody.
Good on you. That is Trent, one of the Bondi lifeguards on the air at B105.